Welcome to PCHL Weekly for the second week of action this year, covering October 11th to the 17th. A couple rivalry matches and some key early games for the standings are highlighted in our games of the night, and we look into the second division Canadian Elite Hockey League for the first time. Let's jump into the action. Our feature game of the night on Saturday features an all-Quebec matchup with the Glacier taking on the Loyalists. We know that the Glacier have been in some lopsided games already this year, so let's see how this one goes. Halfway through the first, Robert Glennie takes the puck in the offensive zone for the Loyalists. He slides the puck over to Robin McKinney, coming down the left wing. He gets tied up with Oskari Harvanen of the Glacier, but wins the battle and gets the puck back to Patrick Lemay, who fires it right back to Mancini to direct it into the net and give the Loyalists a 1-0 lead. Just 3 minutes later, off an offensive zone faceoff win by Glennie, Emile Blomqvist gets the puck back to Marc-Antoine Savard on the point. His first shot is blocked, but he picks up the puck again, and this time makes no mistake to double the lead and keep the hype train going after his acquisition just before the start of the season. Glennie would be back at it again on his next shift, this time dumping the puck into the far corner. Pressure on the forecheck leads to a turnover as Toby Bonneau steals the puck and finds Glennie in the high slot. He gives it back to Bonneau, who fires it into the side netting, and Joey Arsenault finds it before Trevor Archibald can pounce on it. And it's starting to look like another blowout game featuring the Glacier. While it calmed down for a little while, just after the midway point of the second period, Blomqvist picks up the puck on the right wing and finds a streaking Kyle Craig-Daly for the backdoor tap-in. The Glacier would stop the bleeding there, but Gabriel Verville picks up the first star honors as he shuts out the Glacier for his second shutout of the season. Two other games took place on Friday. First, the Hamilton Steelhawks overcame an early 3-0 deficit against the Ottawa Dominion, thanks in part to a 4-point game from Adam Reed, who got the winning goal on the power play in the third. And the Brampton Blazers beat the Patriots in Montreal 6-2, thanks to a great effort from Marto Hartig, who had 3 points, but also helped by the Patriots, who took 5 penalties in the third while trying to come back. Our feature game on Sunday featured the two top teams in the league, with the Titans hosting the St. Pats in a Battle of Toronto. It was a hard-fought game at Scotiabank Arena, and the teams were scoreless until just after the midway point of the game, when Dylan Boisvert and Alexandre Huard of the St. Pats came in on a 2-on-1, and Huard finishes off after a nice feed from Boisvert. Just a couple minutes later, it's this time Wade Taper who carries the puck through the neutral zone and just simply outskates everyone and drives to the net all alone. The leading goal scorer, however, can't finish as he shoots the puck wide, but he's the first to get it and quickly finds Miles Paul, who makes no mistake on the finish. In the last couple seconds of the period, the Titans take the lead as Dmitry Gogolev has his pocket picked by Brandon Baxter, who fires it past Lally with just 5 seconds left in the period. In the third now, this time it's Jandrek's time to turn the puck over in his own end, and Cameron Holtum takes advantage to tie the game up. The game would remain tied at the end of regulation, and overtime would solve nothing, so we go to a shootout. Hull would take the first shot and beat Lally with a last-minute move to the back end. After teams exchange misses, Justin Cameron ties it up with a toe drag that beats Dupont. After Baxter's shot is stopped for the Titans, Novielli carries the puck in and makes a quick move to the backhand and wins the game for the St. Pats. With the win, the St. Pats move again within 1 point of the Titans. In other action, the Ottawa Dominion scored 4 goals in the first, and 4 points from Tony Kosman helped them to a 5-2 win over the Privateers. The Surrey Tigers also won the first game of the Masala Cup with a 4-1 win over the Brampton Blazers. Earlier in the week, the mayors confirmed the bet is on, and the losing city's mayor will have to wear the opposing team's jersey at a council meeting. Still 3 more meetings between the two teams in that friendly competition. No game of the day on the 13th, but there were 5 games as the Hamilton Steelhawks scored 5 in the second, helped them to a big 7-4 win over the Royals. The Edmonton Black Barons got the extra point with a shootout win over the Halifax Privateers, as both teams struggle out of the gate. The Calgary Outlaws remained perfect on the road as they beat the Mutants 7-4, with Brent Hubregs getting a hat-trick. Martin Johansson scored 2 and assisted 2 as the Winnipeg Falcons scored 5 in the third to beat the St. Pats. And finally, Jonathan Gustafsson made 26 saves to shut out the visiting Glacier, to allow the Seawolves to win 3-0. The Loyalists were in Vancouver to take on the Seawolves for the game of the night on Wednesday. Still in the first, Brendan Beers fires one past Gustafsson on the power play, with Peter Edwards providing the screen to open the scoring for the Loyalists. And that's all the scoring we would see, as both goalies showed why they're considered the top 2 in the league. Verville made 24 saves in the shutout, but wasn't made a star by the Vancouver press. Gustafsson himself made 35 saves, but his one blemish allowed the Loyalists to get the win. Elsewhere, Sear and the Ottawa Dominion shut out the visiting Surrey Tigers 3-0. The Toronto Royals got back to winning ways with a 5-2 win over the Mississauga Mutants, who are still sitting on just 3 points for the season. The Glacier just managed to hang on to a 3-2 win over the Black Barons. And meanwhile, the Winnipeg Falcons came back against the Blazers to win 3-2. Finally, Michel Renga made 43 saves, but it wasn't enough as the Patriots came to Toronto and beat the Titans 2-1. October 15th brings us the first game of the biggest rivalry in Canadian hockey, the Montreal Loyalists and the Montreal Patriots at the Bell Centre. The crowd is split with about 70% of fans supporting the home Loyalists thanks to their season ticket holders. Heading into the game, the Loyalists have been a better team and notably have yet to give up a power play goal against. But anything can happen here, and both teams enter the game coming off wins. However, both coaches remind the teams and fans that this game counts for the same number of points as any other and opt to go with their backup goaltenders. It doesn't take long for the scoring to start as off the offensive zone face-off win by Glennie, Mikael Hendrickson gets the puck across the ice to Bloomquist, who sends it back to Derek Johnson, who puts it home as Glennie causes havoc in front of the net. Later in the first, the Loyalists are on the PK, but have the face-off in the Patriot zone. After a bit of keep away, Yuso Yamza finds Craig Daly backdoor and he puts it home for the shorthanded goal. A few minutes later, the Loyalists find themselves on the power play this time. Henriksen makes a smart pass to Jordan Dussault with his shooting lane blocked, and a quick touch over to Arsenault alone on the doorstep, and he makes no mistake. Just over 10 minutes in, and it's already 3-0. Verville and the Patriots would temporarily stop the bleeding, and in the second period get one back on the power play, as Justin Marlowe and Garrett Hatch would make no mistake on the 2-on-1, with Hatch finishing it off to bring it back within 2. But that's as close as they would get. In the last minute of the second, LeMay and Edwards would go back and forth with the puck before Edwards fires it home past a sprawling Barvicius. The Loyalists would add 3 more in the final frame to make it a 7-1 final. Not what Patriot fans were hoping for this night, but the teams will play each other 3 more times this year. There were 3 other games on Wednesday. William McDuff scored the winner in overtime as the Privateers beat the Blazers 4-3. Eric McPhail made 46 saves, but it wasn't enough as the Outlaws beat the Steelhawks 3-2 in a shootout. In that game, Mark Martin extended his goal streak to 5 games. And finally, in a rematch of earlier this week, the St. Pats were at home, this time to beat the Titans 5-0 at Maple Leaf Garden, where of course they play despite my mistake last week. Thursday night's feature game saw the Royals take on the Glacier. The Glacier will get the scoring started as Christopher Beckett just throws the puck towards the net, and it's eventually Jankula who's able to find the rebound in the skates and put it home. A couple minutes later, Braden Dick elects to play the puck to Paul Grabowski, but Baudet pressures him quickly and doubles the Glacier lead. The Royals would get one back before the end of the period. They force the turnover in the neutral zone, and Aldridge gets the puck to Jacobs, who goes in all alone and puts it past Dick with a nice shot. However, the Glacier will get the 2-goal lead back just over 2 minutes into the second period. Whitson throws it back to the point, and Durocher finds Bucknovich for the redirection. 4-on-4 action sees the puck get tied up in the Glacier zone off the face-off. It's Aldridge who finds it, and he quickly throws it to Jacobs, who taps it in. And it's once again a 1-goal game. The Glacier would get lead back to 2 and then 3 as Pierre finishes off the 3-on-1. Still in the second, the Glacier would start to run away with things as quick passing gets the Royals lost in their own end, leaving Cruz wide open in the slot, and he again finds Pierre for another easy goal. And the Glacier would be involved in another blowout, because add 5 more in the third to make it an 11-2 final. In other CPHL action Thursday night, we saw the Steelhawks beat the Tigers 4-1, the Seawolves getting it in the shootout over the St. Pats, the Mutants continuing to struggle with a 4-1 loss to the Outlaws, and Elliot Thomason getting a 30-save shutout in the Black Barons win over the Falcons. In our final feature game on Friday, we check in on the Mutants and the Dominion. After a scoreless first, we pick up the action late in the second, and after Bouffret just throws the puck at the net, it's Ledoux who comes up with it despite being outnumbered by 3 Dominion players, and the Mutants take the lead. While just hanging on at the second intermission, they would get more breathing room just 2 minutes into the third, as once again, Badshire throws the puck toward the net, and Oberg finds it despite there being more Dominion defenders around. The Mutants would add 2 more, and Breezeball would shut the door to get the Mutants their second win of the year. Both wins have come when the game of the night, so maybe there's something to that for them. To wrap up our scores for the week, the Loyalists would extend their winning streak to 4 games as they beat the Titans in overtime. The Royals come from behind to beat the Privateers, with the game winner coming just in the last 2 minutes of that one. And finally, while I'm sure the Patriots were happy to get out of Montreal after their poor showing against the Loyalists, Blazers sent them home with another loss as they scored 3 unanswered goals to get the win 3-2. With it still so early in the season, we shouldn't be surprised to see a big shakeup in the standings. The Loyals had a great week, and with 4 straight wins, they moved into the top spot with 18 points in 8 games. And leading the way for them is Verville with his 1.26 goals against average and 955 save percentage. The Outlaws weren't in any spotlight games this week, but they did win all 3 of their games to move into second on 17 points. Last week's leaders, the Toronto Titans, fell down to 6th as they lost 4 games this week without getting a win. And still in relegation position are the Mutants, who've actually won 2 games in regulation, which is more than the Black Barons, but they have a couple more overtime wins than the Mutants and a couple games in hand. Now let's turn our attention over to the Canadian Elite Hockey League for the first time. As a reminder, the winner of this league will move up, while the last place team in the Canadian Premier Hockey League will move down. Here are the standings after Week 2. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up, but you'll notice something remarkable, as this is the first year of the CEHL without a team from Toronto after the Toronto Tin Caps were relegated last year. The Windsor Red Wings have been a long-time staple of the 2nd Division CEHL, but have gotten off to a rough start with just 1 win in 8 games. The Longueuil earned promotion to the CEHL last year. It's often hard for teams to make the step from the regional leagues to the national CEHL. The Waterloo Emperors have firmly established themselves as a CEHL team the past few years, and I expect them to move up the standings. The Kelowna Grizzlies are another team that is normally towards the top of this league, but has had a slow start. Although with their star player being Andrew Benevenhuizen, I think all commentators are hoping they don't move up. The Niagara Rapids have had injury challenges so far this year, but I think they're still happy just to be in this league, and I don't see much ambition from the ownership group. The Markham Rangers are another team that I expect to turn things around and move towards the top of the CEHL standings. The Burnaby Battalion, however, are a team that I think is lucky to be where they are right now, as they are likely fighting to avoid relegation this year. The Laval Dragons have always been in the shadows of the 2 big Montreal teams, but they've started to really embrace a unique identity the last couple seasons with new ownership, and I think that business success will translate into more dollars spent on the ice, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them competing for a CEHL title in the coming years. The Gatineau Voyageurs are a team that I think still has some strong pieces, but will likely struggle as the Ottawa Dominion takes center stage in the nation's capital. They were listed by most pundits as one of the favorites for the CEHL title before the season started, and I think they'll need to get back to the CPHL sooner rather than later to keep themselves in the conversation. Now into the top 5 of the standings. The Regina Monarchs spent many years in the CPHL and are desperate to get back there. They've embraced an international roster to try to make that jump. Another Saskatchewan team that wants to get back to the CPHL is the Saskatoon Stallions, who were relegated just last year. Saskatoon did lead the league in season ticket sales despite the relegation last year. They lost a couple key pieces when they were relegated, but they've got a lot of CPHL experience on their roster, which should allow them to compete this year. However, there are 3 teams that have already separated themselves from the pack. First, the Victoria Admirals. This is a team that has never been to the CPHL. They don't have any stars, but everyone seems to have bought in. With a game in hand on teams above them, they're right there. Second right now are the Sherbrooke Corsairs, another team that have never been in the CPHL, but have been long-term tenants of the CEHL. They spent a bit of money bringing 2 elite players this offseason, and I'm not surprised to see it has helped them get off to a great start. And finally, leading the CEHL so far are the London Cavaliers, a team with extensive history in a town that loves hockey. They've been fighting to get back to the CPHL for a few years, and this might be the year they finally do it. It's early in the year though, so we'll check in with the CEHL throughout the season to see which of these teams will be promoted to the CPHL. Do all the action again next week, and remember, keep your stick on the ice.